It's time to recap what you've learned in this productivity course. So, how do all the information and implementation we've learned relate with each other? Here's a visual representation of what we talked about. I know it kind of looks overwhelming. Don't worry, I'll break them down for you as usual and zoom in. Hi, I'm Catherine Lazardo. I'm a thriving ADHD mom, speaker, and lawyer. The overarching ADHD information I want you to remember and take away from this course is this. The challenge ADHD creates is not about not knowing what to do or the information, but ADHD is about first, not using what you know at the exact moment you must use what you know in your natural environment. That ADHD is about implementation and intention. We talked about how our ADHD brain is like a drawbridge where the information needs to travel from the back part of our brain, walk through that bridge, and get to be implemented by us at the intended time and place. But sometimes our ADHD brain drawbridge is up. That's when we need to rely on skills, not just tools and apps or technology, because those things work for us, but at some point they will fail because setback happens. Setbacks are inevitable for our ADHD brain, and that's okay. That's why the skills we develop are critical so that we can draw the bridge down again and help us connect the information with our implementation and our intention, especially when it comes to our productivity. That's why the second thing we talked about is that what does productivity mean for an ADHD person? It's not about being busy and getting things done, many things done fast. It's about getting things done with purpose. We're trying to be intentional when we implement what the information that we know. And ADHDers are very purpose driven. I talk about that more in detail in my hyper personalized program where I coach people one on one. But just know that ADHDers are very purposeful driven. That's why it's so much more critical for us to get things done with purpose and be intentional. And how do we do that? By knowing and understanding what makes us do or not do something. That's where we talked about the difference between fuel versus friction. How fuel is what's innate in our society, what we're used to, that is composed of good fuel and bad fuel. Good fuel, such as reward systems, bonus points, anything that is more positive and uplifting, positive reinforcements. And the bad fuel are the punishments and the disciplines. I'm using the term bad not to have a connotation that they're nefarious. No, it's just that good versus bad fuel to simplify things. However, fuel is only half of the story of what makes us do or not do something. We also need to understand the other half, which we don't even realize exists because we're not taught to think that way. And that is friction. Friction is what's stopping us from doing something. And it could be a thing, a person, an event, a feeling, anything that's tangible and intangible that we didn't even realize is stopping us from doing something. And here, it's stopping us from being productive. That's why it's important for us to be a detective for ourselves, to find what that friction is for our own self and to eliminate them. By finding and eliminating your friction that's stopping you from being productive, it is more permanent solution than the temporary solution that fuel generally gives when you use fuel to make you or someone else do or not do something. And that relates to how can we use friction to for our productivity. That's why we talked about productivity layers, because in this course we focused on using friction for our structure, specifically to create a flexible structure for you by finding and eliminating frictions for your structure or the foundation of your productivity. And once you have a flexible structure that can withstand the earthquakes of your lives and move along with it, such as distractions, ADHD symptoms, and your women's health, then you can build systems, processes, and automations that will withstand those natural earthquakes, the natural setbacks, and the ADHD setbacks we have on top of those natural setbacks. Then we implemented the skill of finding and eliminating friction with our flexible structure, specifically in building our environment and our protocols to structures that we need to be flexible to create our systems. As to our environment, we talked about how we have virtual environments now, in addition to in real life environments that are composed of the desks and office, and our virtual environment is composed of our computer and phones. We also applied finding and eliminating friction with our protocols, specifically our evening protocols and our morning protocols. I shared my examples of all of my protocols and my environment to give you an idea of how I actually implement finding and eliminating friction in creating my flexible structure. Again, think about how you can do that for yourself, because for our ADHD brain, it differs per ADHD person. So you have to think of what suits you best in your natural environment. What works for me might not work for you. That's why knowing the skills is important, more so than having the tools. But I still gave you the tools of the finder eliminator, which is a step-by-step way for you to break down and not feel overwhelmed in trying to find what your friction is. By using this friction finder eliminator in identifying what is stopping you from starting one action to completing an action, then you can focus on what truly matters for you and how you feel about them. Then you can eliminate those frictions by taking them away, doing something so that they are gone. So you can create a frictionless path in completing the action that you want to achieve. Lastly, another very important information for our ADHD moms and all ADHD women out there is that women's health has a direct correlation with our ADHD. Specifically, our menstrual cycle creates hormonal changes, and those hormonal changes directly impacts our ADHD symptoms. This is severely under researched right now, but the good thing is attention is being brought into light for this. And for us, what we can do for ourselves is to track our menstrual cycle or our hormonal changes, because our women's health is a lifespan from the moment we're born to puberty to menstruation to getting pregnant to after giving birth to breastfeeding to raising kids, and then perimenopause and menopause and old age. throughout the women's lifespan, our ADHD symptoms will change drastically or not drastically, depends on each person's body, and our medications, our treatment, our tools, and our skills will work and not work at certain times of our women's lifespan. So just know and recognize that if you have a regular 28-day menstrual cycle, you likely will have 14 days total to leverage and maximize your productivity. The reason women's health and ADHD relationship is very important so that you can exercise compassion for others who might not understand what you're going through, and especially compassion for the most important person in your life, that is yourself. Give yourself self compassion, knowing that all of this that we talked about, all of this is challenging for our ADHD brain. And ADHD is not your fault, it is biological and hereditary. It's biological because it is in our brain structure, and it's hereditary, it's in our DNA. So keep all of that in mind, moms, for yourself and for your kids, because it is hereditary. One or more of your children will likely have ADHD. And the best thing to do is for the entire family to heal together, treat together, and understand ADHD together. Thank you for taking my course. I hope that this is supporting you with your productivity and supporting you and your family. I appreciate you.